boy.
Hi, Mary.
Good evening. It's time is 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting in order. I welcome virtually Farah from, the Food Waste Project that we're doing, the Food Cycler, and Gordon McKibben in the audience, as well as staff and full council tonight. Next item is approval of the agenda. That the agenda for council meeting of Monday, December 4th be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Burton, Councillor Kirkby, any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations tonight? None, we're going to move along. Item 4.1 is our food cycle science. We have one item under presentations tonight, and Farah Sheriff-Dean, did I pronounce that correctly? Close enough? From Food Cycle Science is joining us virtually. So Farah, once you unmute, there you go.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
You're all set.
Thank you so much. I was just wondering if you have the presentation in front of you. I wasn't. Great. Perfect. Thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Farah, and I am the Municipal Program Coordinator at Food Cycle Science. And I'm here to present the Town of Prescott's Food Cycler pilot program results. And before we launch into the results, I'd like to give you a quick recap of our company. We are a Canadian-based company out of Ottawa. We're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions, and we use our innovative technology called the Food Cycler to do so. 2022 and 2023 have been really big years for us. We were selected as Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge finalists. And I'd like to acknowledge that your municipality's Food Cycler program was made part and possible due to the federal funding from this program. We've also submitted our stage 3 application this month and hoping to hear back and win the grand prize so we can reinvest that into our municipal programs. And as of today, we're proud to say that the Food Cycler is the trusted food waste diversion solution for over 100 municipal partners across Canada. And when the town of Prescott joined, you were the 49th municipality to pilot this solution. And we want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial an innovative solution to the longstanding problem that is food waste. So as I mentioned, with support from Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, your pilot program was run for 100 participating households. The net cost to the town was $10,000 plus taxes and shipping. And your pilot ran from June to September of this year, where usage was tracked for 12 weeks to calculate total waste diversion. And your residents completed a survey to provide the data and feedback that we are going to go over now. So we were able to collect 62 responses out of the 100 participants, which is a 62% response rate. And the first two questions here give you an idea of how important reducing greenhouse gases are in addition to waste reduction for your residents. Your residents rated greenhouse gas reduction as a 9 out of 10 in terms of importance, and they rated a 9 out of 10 for waste reduction as well. When we asked your residents where their food waste currently went prior to using their food cycler, a large number indicated that it went into their garbage, and a smaller number indicated that they were able to compost all year, whereas this was only a possibility during the summer months for others. So when we asked your residents why they didn't compost, almost 61% chose not to because of concerns about animals and pests like bears and raccoons, whereas others reported concerns about odors, maintenance, and space. These answers are very much in line with a lot of the data that we've collected from our municipal programs, and the Food Cycler really is a great solution to these issues because it's easy to use, it's odor-free, and it really does prevent wildlife encounters. So when we look at the split of devices in Prescott, you had about a 70-30 split between the FC30 and the Maestro or the Eco 5. And based on the data collected for diversion, your residents ran an average of 3.63 cycles per week on their FC30s and an average of 3.36 cycles per week for their Maestros or Eco 5s. So this is equivalent to about 237 kilograms per year per household of food waste that is being diverted using the food cycler, which is also equivalent to 23.7 metric tons of food waste being diverted from landfill by the 100 food cyclers in use. Additionally, the 100 food cyclers in the town will divert 30.8 metric tons of CO2e equivalents per year, which is about 36.8 acres of forest sequestering greenhouse gas emissions every year. When we asked your residents about the number of garbage bags generated prior to using their food cycler, your residents said that they generated about 1.43 standard garbage bags, and after using their food cyclers, they generated about 0.95 standard garbage bags. So this translates to about 0.48 fewer standard garbage bags per week being generated in each household, which is a reduction of 25 garbage bags per household per year that is not being trucked to your local landfill. And when we asked residents if increased awareness of food waste motivated them to waste less food, an overwhelming majority said that it did, 75%. And when people manage their food waste at home, they really become much more aware of how much they're wasting in the first place. And we say that the most effective waste diversion strategy is to not waste any food to begin with. So the awareness that comes with this program is incredibly important. And though it can be difficult to really quantify that, it is an added value that the solution provides and likely contributes to the reduction of garbage bags that we saw in the previous slide. When we asked your residents if they saw an increase in electricity costs during the time that they used the food cycler, about 5% of your residents indicated that they did, whereas 60% indicated that they were not sure. This typically says that any increase in electricity costs were negligible, acceptable, or not noticed by residents. So when we asked your residents if the municipality continued to offer a food cycler at low or no cost, 88% of your residents indicated that they thought that their friends and neighbors in the community would participate in a program. And an overwhelming 95% of residents would recommend the food cycler to others based on their own experience. So this slide is pretty self-explanatory. It speaks to the success of the pilot. 98% of your residents said that they would continue using their food cycler as a food waste solution moving forward. This level of participation really far exceeds any other organic waste management solution that there is out there today. For example, in Ottawa, a green bin program is available, and it only really has a 56% adoption rate. And when it comes to composting, which is something available to anybody who has the space to do so, the rate has been fairly stagnant for the last couple of decades. And as indicated in your township as well, it's not something that really has been able to be taken up at a higher level. And the 98% participation rate in your pilot really is incredibly encouraging and speaks to the willingness of your residents to adopt this program. And there are a few comments made by your residents talking about how they enjoyed the program as well. And overall, your residents rated the pilot 4.6 out of 5 stars, with 73% of your residents rating it at 5 stars. This really is a testament to all of the work that's been put in by the township in planning and launching the pilot. And there are a few comments as well from residents thanking you for the opportunity to participate. And this slide here is a few constructive comments that we wanted to share. We like to be transparent with the written comments that we receive. A few of the comments revolve around costing and as well as having an option to have a drop-off point for the byproduct for anyone who isn't able to use it in their own homes. And just to recap, 23.7 metric tons of food waste is being diverted from landfill per year from the 100 food cyclers in use in the pilot program. Your residents reported a 0.48 bag reduction per week, which equals 25 bags per household per year of food waste that's being diverted from your local landfills. And 98% of your residents will continue using their food cycler. And just to give you a quick overview of what an expanded program can look like, the city of Nelson in BC, it's about the same size as Kincardine, is the first municipality to adopt the food cycler as a community level organics management solution. Some of the resources in place there includes partnerships with the local grocery store, the Safeway, that hosts a refill station where residents can access carbon pellets for their filters for free. We also have a local repair program, bear-proof bins for residents to drop off byproduct. And we also have an e-waste recycling program in addition to an extensive education resource program. So the possibilities with program expansion is really endless, and we'd love the opportunity to look at what this could look like for the town of Prescott. And in terms of really understanding the life cycle analysis of a food cycle organics program, we've developed an emissions calculation tool. It's a consulting tool that allows you to assess the impact your community has by eliminating GHG emissions and the effect it can have on the sustainability efforts. We also have a new model coming in 2024. We're constantly looking to improve our designs, and having feedback from residents and our partners is integral to this piece. It will be a 3.5 liter model, and it will have a footprint that's a bit smaller than the FC30. And also, as one of our early implementation partners, apologies, I skipped ahead, you also have first right of refusal when it comes to the next stage of funding. Our current subsidy model is available until December 31st, and we just ask that you take this presentation as information, and we look forward to the opportunity to potentially look at what an expanded program in Prescott could look like. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. Are there any questions?
Councillor McConnell?
Thank you very much. My wife just told me that our machine told us it needs a new filter on the weekend.
Okay.
The fact that we have bought a quantity of these here, is there any quantity, parts, filters available through you?
Yes, we do. We have a municipal accessory store with pricing that's specifically for municipal partners. So you're able to purchase filters through the accessory store. We also recommend to municipalities that they can purchase filters in bulk that they can then sell to residents in the community, so that they wouldn't have to purchase and pay for shipping. In the case that that's not an option, we just ask for residents to get together and also, purchase a number of refills or other accessories that they might want in bulk, and that makes it a little bit more affordable.
And delivery on something like that is what?
It's $25.
No, I mean,
overnight,
time-wise.
Oh, it's fairly quick. It's about 24 to 72 hours, depending on when you make your order. If you make it in the beginning of the week, you should receive it within.
So you have them right in stock then?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Sarah, thanks very much. And it looks like you got some great results in Prescott, 4.6 stars, and 98% are still using it. So that's fantastic. Thank you for your presentation. I know Ms. Mallory has further information for us. Or is that coming up later? I see that coming up later. All right, Farrell, thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Sorry, Caitlin. Put you right on the spot. Let's see, coming up later. There. All right, 5 is delegations. There are no delegations tonight. And 6, under 6.1, we have approval of council minutes. The motion reads that council minutes dated November 20th, 2023 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Campbell, Councillor McConnell. Any questions on those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. 7 is communication and petitions. There are no items under this section today. 8, we're going to move to consent reports. The consent reports, we have 3 items: the information package, staff report 84-2023, the accessibility report, and staff report 85-2023 financial report. Is there anything you'd like to see pulled out of the information package? Councilor Burton?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Yes, 2 items. I emailed staff and yourself, the Bonfield Township, the childcare availability. And I know that Councillor Campbell was going to pull out the Bonfield Township for the firefighters tax credit. So maybe Councillor Campbell can speak to that on behalf of the fire department, and that's under her portfolio.
Sure, that'd be great. Councilor Campbell?
I did speak to the fire chief just to make sure that this is something that they would want. And he said definitely, and would look forward, if needed, to attend the meeting in order to explain it further if we needed him to.
No, we'll pull it out and we'll discuss it next week then.
Yeah.
Matthew, good. And Councilor Kirkby?
I would like to pull out through you, Mayor Shankar, the Making Play Possible.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? Councilor McConnell?
I have 2 as well, but the firefighter one has already been taken care of. The second one I don't want to pull out, I just want to make note of, and I think as many of us should attend this as possible, and that's the meeting in Augusta Township on November 17th. The notice of, I'm sorry.
It was given to us on November 17th.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, yeah. Monday, December 11th. It's a meeting in regards to the area directly to the west of Prescott, public information on what they're going to do with it, input, and given the fact that actually our northern or southern industrial park abuts that, and our playing fields that we're proposing to build about that as well. I think it behooves us to express an interest there.
The only problem is we have a meeting that night. Same night. It's next Monday.
You sure?
We have 2 weeks in a row because of the holidays.
When I looked at that, I thought it said 2024, not 2023, the 2 meetings in a row.
The same as this year, 2024, the same thing that we did this year.
Well, then that does create a problem, doesn't it? Because this is a visitors to us.
Same time too, isn't it? 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Councilor Kirkby?
Well, through you, Mayor Shankar, should we draft a letter in support of, when I read it, Councilor McConnell, it looks like there's a possibility of development there, right, of residential and like retail, possibly. We can't attend, should we draft?
If I may.
Okay,
If I may.
sure.
There's several things that concerned me when I looked at the map that they had. For example, they have Hyde Street, Jessup Street, James Street, and Dibble Street continuing directly into Augusta Township on this map. Personally, I can't think of any reason why we would do that. They have on that map, it's an old map, because they still have, Josephine Street crossing the railroad tracks, which it hasn't been 40 years. The entire north section of our industrial park And the area that they're talking about is listed as intake protection zone 2, which is a drainage. And I'm not sure, well, I know the drainage is still there, but we've done so much infilling back there. I'm not sure how effective it is or how much area it actually takes up back there. On top of that, there are dark shaded areas listed as commercial light industrial. And we've changed that area back there twice since I've been on council. And I'm not so sure, quite frankly, given the housing demand there is, that we shouldn't be discussing changing it again. So I think it is very important, this meeting, and it's really unfortunate that we have scheduled a council meeting for the same evening. Because I think there is a lot to discuss mutually. I would hate to see them go ahead with something that I can't see them doing that, but it would be interesting to see what the public perception is of people that attend.
Is this just for information, this meeting, or are they intending to do it? I didn't see where it said they were intending to do anything. It's a public meeting to bring to everybody's attention, right?
Redesignation. Councillor Campbell?
May I ask why we decided not to do December 18th for our meeting?
Would you like to answer that before I answer it?
So that was decided last year. So each November, December, we do the calendar for the next year. And so just at the last meeting, we did January all the way through December.
Yeah, I wrote
So
the,
we always do back to back in the first 2 weeks in December so that we're not putting a council meeting the same week of Christmas.
Everything we did last year?
I think for the last 7 years anyways.
Anyone else?
would it be prudent to suggest that we send one of our counselors to the Augusta meeting? And
Well,
So at different points throughout the process, Augusta has kind of kept us apprised of things that are going on. The intake protection zone is determined by the Conservation Authority. It's not something that we can necessarily adjust. However, when somebody is actually doing their development, that's when they would do further analysis in terms of exactly where the pattern flows and whatnot. The other item on there, the purple amount are noted as commercial light industrial. That's in Augusta, not in Prescott. So just as a clarification point. And then I'm not sure, I think they were just illustrating different connection points, but really I think what they were focusing on for major connection points was through James Street, south of the tracks, as opposed to anything else. We already know that Henry dead ends, that sort of thing. And then you kind of have how the other pieces of property would impact exactly where you would bring in or not bring in. But I believe the intention was to have the major artery connecting into James Street and then down to King Street. Obviously, this is all just kind of creating a secondary plan for the area, certainly not what the final end product would look like.
It does say we can send written comments if we can't attend. Option.
It also very much follows the recommendations and information that was put in the joint land needs study that was done by Prescott and Augusta in terms of exactly kind of how those would work above and below the tracks, that sort of thing.
Councillor McConnell?
Unfortunately, and it was something I was hoping we could have early in the new year, is a look at our side of Sophia Street to see what we wanted to do and then mutually get together with Augusta Township and have a look at their area, since we are going to be supplying water and sewage to them, and a certain amount of transportation. It's mutually beneficial if we agree on what we're doing, rather than have somebody just go off half-cocked. That is not going to happen now because they're having a meeting next week. And I don't think that we're planning on scheduling a meeting between now and then. But I do think it would be a good idea for us to have a meeting in regards to that early in the new year. And as Ruth mentioned here, they are taking comments and suggestions, but any comments and suggestions that we might give will be our personal comments and suggestions, not representative of town council. So I don't know how valuable that would be.
I'm not sure what you mean though on this side of Sophia. Whereabouts are you thinking?
Well, I'm just using Sophia as a dividing line between Augusta and Prescott. Obviously, when you get south of the tracks, Prescott extends west of Sophia. I think we meant the town line.
Oh, I thought you were talking about development on this side of Sophia.
Question for you. So part of the planning process, then they have this public meeting, and then what comes after that?
So I believe they have to, very similar to how we went through the process for the official plan. They would have this meeting, take public comment, that sort of thing, then have another meeting at their council to discuss exactly what that would look like in terms of a secondary plan, and then potentially adopt it at some point after that. So if you'd like, we'd be more than happy to just pose a letter, ask exactly what those timelines look like. If there's another opportunity for the town of Prescott to weigh in on those particular items in perhaps a little bit more detail, and just see what the response is when we get it back.
Sound good?
That's very acceptable, thank you.
All right.
I was gonna also pull out, make play possible, but it's covered, so that's good.
Okay. All right, so all the items listed in the consent report, except for the ones we've taken out, accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councilor Quigley, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. No committee reports this evening. For me, just a couple of little things. Matthew and I had a meeting with the manager of the fort, and that was very good. Talked about a few different things, and all positive. Trying to get perhaps the musical ride to come to town and stuff like that. So that was a good chat. Steve Clark had his official Christmas party at the ACCC on the weekend, which was well attended. And we had our Riverwalk Wonderland all weekend. I wish the weather had been a little more cooperative, but from all reports, it was a lot of success there. So well done, everyone. We're going to go around the table here, and let's start with Deputy Mayor. Did we skip Lockett?
Okay. So the East Grenville Lanark Health Unit has just received a pretty prestigious award. It's called the Excellence Canada Gold, and it was awarded to Leeds Grenville and Lanark for mental health in the workplace. So congratulations to Dr. Lee and the team, because it was a pretty big accomplishment for the health unit. Other than what you've just said, good.
Councilor McConnell, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, Mayor Shankar. like I suspect most of council, I popped into the pop-up Christmas festivity over the weekend between showers. And I know at the curling club, the talk was how pretty it looked lit up at night. And I did have occasion to drive by there on Saturday night, and it was very impressive. It looked really nice. Staff did a nice job doing that. As you say, it's just unfortunate the weather didn't turn out a little better. I attended I'm not sure what you would call it. An internment in the columbarium, is that the term? Yeah, it's the first time I've done that at the cemetery. A member of the cemetery board has to be present whenever there's a burial or an interment. We pick up the burial certificate, and there's a check as well. I did that for the first time last week, and it went quite well. And, I guess that's all I can contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Just to elaborate a little bit on the Riverwalk Wonderland that went on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there was a nice crowd for the tree lighting. Of course, not as many people as we would have wished, but still the people that were there were in great spirits. MP Barrett and MPP Clark and their families joined us along with Santa and Mrs. Claus for a wagon ride to kick off Saturday. There were live reindeer that were really popular on Friday night. So it's too bad it wasn't nice route because I think a lot of the kids would have liked that. There were musical performances, horse-drawn wagon rides. There was Christmas trees for sale. There were sugar cookies you could decorate, wreaths that you could make. There were lots of vendors. There were also the souvenir ornaments that each council member has tonight. So that is a fundraiser for the BIA for streetscaping. So I think we have about 500 available. So $5 each in a multitude of colors. I think about 12 colors. So that's good too. Visitor Center on December 15th and 16th. Santa and Mrs. Claus will be back again to the museum. So keep an eye out for that. And the lighting, so they're gonna keep the lighting display at the Riverwalk Wonderland until mid-January so that we can enjoy it. And we'd just like to thank all of the volunteers, businesses, staff, everybody that contributed because it was a real collaboration for sure. And it was a great event and hopefully next year it'll be bigger and better.
Councillor Young. Councillor Burton.
Thank you. I too attended the Riverwalk Wonderland and I was an elf, helping Santa and Mrs. Claus, and enjoyed every minute of it and with the kids and coming in and stuff. And it definitely did, like, the wow factor down there. Staff, it was unbelievable with the sleighs and, you know, and everything that they did. And then I participated as an elf at the Steve Clark's Christmas gathering. I didn't have enough time to change, so I said, I'm gonna elf and spread the cheer. So that's what I did as well. Lots of smiles on lots of people's faces. So there's going to be a cookie exchange through St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival to thank all the volunteers and the sponsors and the board members, and council will be invited. It's going to be December 12th from 1 to 5. So you're welcome to, you don't need to participate if you don't want to in the cookie exchange, but if you do.
When's that? Sorry.
December 12th from 1 to 5.
Where?
And it's upstairs at the new Brink. Their beautiful ACCC. Yes, and then, yeah, so anyways, I think that's it.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Campbell.
The fire admin meeting will not be held tomorrow night. They're having their own kind of private meeting. They're handing out awards, and so I will not be attending that tomorrow night. Do I bake cookies for the cookie exchange?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want,
Okay,
yes.
is that how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you can bake chocolate chips or, that's my
And
favorite,
then
by the way,
you
but,
trade them.
and then you can drink them.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Kirkby.
Thank you. Last Monday, we attended, a group of us, the wastewater treatment facility tour, which was a good tour. The one thing I'll note, it's the same group that runs our water filtration plant, it's Aqua. The place was pristine. I mean, all the electrical, all the pipes. I was expecting to see a few leaks, and pretty much what you saw was pure concrete. The facility is just well maintained, so full confidence in the people that we have running that. Some of the things that have happened throughout town, the staff have did the last pickup of yard waste for 2023. Some new whiteboards have been installed at the ACC along with a gravel pad for snow dumping. Bridge work continues to happen. And then there's some work going down at the marina for EDOT, starting to get stuff together for tender quote. And then as out in the public, I helped organize the U9 Lucky Puck Jamboree that took place at the ACCC and the Ingredient Center in Cardinal. There was 24 teams, over 312 youth participated. Lots of positive feedback on the rink in Prescott. I know Nick's and Chuck's and McDonald's, and I'm pretty sure Tim Hortons saw increased traffic. So it's just a good example of what the new community center will do for us. And when we have a hotel, it'll be filled with these kind of activities. And I'll just call out that the rink staff that day was top notch. The garbage was emptied. The bathrooms were spotless. I mean, the hallways were clean. It was impressive. And I think the staff working probably had more requests than they probably should have. Some may have came for me can I find this, where did I find that? But they were really, really good and great job. So that's all I have.
Is that new staff that's there now?
It was Scott and a new staff member.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Working out well.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Everyone's good? So you were asking about 8.2, that was all under the consent.
Oh, okay, sorry, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna go through some staff reports. We have a few of them tonight. So we're gonna start with 12.1, is staff report 86-2023. I tried to slip this in earlier. It's the Food Cycle Science, FC 30 and Maestro Waste Diversion Pilot Project from Deputy Clerk Caitlin Mallory. It's for information only, so Caitlin, it's all yours.
Thank you. It's my turn.
Yes.
Mayor Shankar, through you to council. So in the spring of 2023, the town of Prescott ran the pilot project for Food Cycle. We purchased 100 units at subsidized rate, 60 FC30, which was a smaller unit, and 40 Maestro units, which was suited for larger families. The FC30 was designed for a smaller household, and we did see a strong uptake in the first month or so with, I think it was 74 units sold. So we had sold almost 90% of them in the first little bit. So I think residents were very excited to have this program offered. Food Cycle Science was great to deal with, and they offer a website, as Councillor McConnell pointed out, that's exclusive to the pilot project participants for purchase of accessories for items such as filters and whatever else you might need. We currently have 8 Maestro units remaining. It's no surprise because they are the larger, more expensive model. So they are still available for sale. We are still advertising this. We've had a lot of events going on, so we do plan to advertise. And it might be a good idea to put right now as a nice Christmas gift for residents. Overall, the feedback received by us was very positive from residents. And it's provided residents with an option to reduce food waste, repurpose the waste as fertilizer, and it has promoted waste diversion in the town of Prescott. So going forward, council has a few options they could consider when deciding to continue with Food Cycler. As we know, it is a subsidized rate, so council could choose not to participate in another intake due to the remaining units available, or it could choose to offer a second intake offered to residents of Prescott with an amount of units to be determined still, and as they spoke to a 2024 newer model. Thirdly, council could choose to partner with neighboring municipalities to offer a broader range of residents. Something to take note here is Edwardsburg Colonel has already ran 2 intakes. I think they're currently still on their second one. And Augusta has offered a pilot recently as well too. So we're not sure at this time if they're interested in participating with us, but it might be a good option to explore further. So I will leave that with you.
Good, thank you, Ms. Mallory. Questions for Ms. Mallory? Councilor Kennedy?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. Caitlin, is there any that we're using in the town? I.e., are we using one here or at Walker House or the new arena?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. We're not using one at our town hall building. I know that Susan has purchased one for the Walker House.
Yep.
I haven't touched base with her, but I'm sure she's keen on using it and getting good use out of it.
Okay, thank you.
No, we do not have any at other town facilities.
Okay. Councilor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. One thing, I was just, the comments that Farah made in her report about a possible community drop-off. I was thinking about the Friends of St. John that have those
Yes.
gardens in the back.
Yes.
That may be somebody that we could contact and see if they'd be interested in having people drop off for their gardens. And then I was thinking too also about organizations that might be interested in, like Councillor Kirkby was saying, you know, there could be like the Prescott Legion or, you know, places like that that may be interested as well.
King's Kitchen.
That's cool. Did you want to subsidize it more? Were you thinking that, or just reach out to them to see if they wanted to buy it?
Maybe reach out to them to see with the remaining units, but I'm not sure if maybe it would be good to approach the Friends of St. John though, to see if they'd be interested in
I would take that follow-up.
being a drop off.
Yeah.
I could take that follow-up.
You can follow that up? Yeah, sounds good. I have a question for you before Councilor McConnell. Is it, at this stage, now that we've had it for a year, would we look at someone buying it from outside of the town of Prescott?
Through you, Mayor Shankar, I think that would be the angle with participating with other municipalities. I mean, it's not something, we wouldn't want to compete with our neighbors because they're trying to sell them too and recoup their costs, but certainly we could look at offering to residents all around.
Because I don't think Brockville's doing anything like this. Anyway, just an idea. Councilor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I thought it'd be a good night for show and tell, so I brought this up. We've been using ours for 5 months. And I have 6 of these at home.
Wow.
Which is the compressed vegetable, fruit, chicken bones, whatever, from 5 months. And that's not very much. Not only that, it eliminates odors because, especially in the summer, you can't leave banana peels, things like that in your garbage. They just stink to high heaven. So right now we only put out a bag of garbage every 2 weeks. Part of that, of course, is because we can use bigger bags now, but that has an equal amount to do with it. It is compressed the usual. My wife cooks a lot, and so I wind up doing a lot of paring and peeling and chopping and stuff like that. And it's incredible the difference in the amount of daily stuff that we get rid of in a small garbage can in the kitchen as compared to what we used to. So this to me is just an excellent program. And this, it's dry. I mean, I could open it up and pass it around, but I won't. It doesn't smell. It's a great thing to have.
So you get one of those a month pretty much, right?
Well, we have 6 of them. I counted them before I come out. I just grabbed that one out of a bucket we have in the garage. We haven't done anything with any of them yet. Probably won't till spring. But we've used it 5 months and I have 6 of those. We didn't start using it because we were going away in June until the 1st of July. So we've used it through then. So a little more than one of those a month, which really is quite incredible. When you look at the thing full, we run ours every day. Because as I said, my wife cooks a lot and we run ours every day, and usually by the end of the day, we have a plastic bowl that we put the top of the little bucket on, and it's full to overflowing. Take that down, dump it in the food recycler or whatever you call it, and what's left is something like that, you know, and it's incredible, and it dries it out. It doesn't smell while it's doing it. There is the charcoal filter thing though. Our machine, after using it 5 months now, says we need a new filter. And apparently there are 2 filters available. The type that we have, you have to change the whole filter. The newer model, you just change the charcoal. So presumably we can get the filter that just changes the charcoal now to fit ours, and we'll just buy charcoal from now on, which should be less expensive, I would think. I suspect you can buy it by the bag or something. Matthew, do you know that you've had it for a while, or what do you?
We've just been buying the
whole thing?
The whole thing, and works very well, and yeah, we're getting 5-6 months out of it.
What are you gonna do for Christmas this year? 6-pack of filters.
Anyway, I highly recommend the thing. It is incredible. I mean, this is dry. You could spread it in your lawn. You can do whatever you want with it.
Put it in your salad.
I mean, when they say that each person is saving 25 bags a year, that's pretty remarkable. All right, thank you, Ms. Mallory.
Oh, there is.
Sorry, more questions.
You, Mayor Shanker. To Caitlin, how many of the larger units did we have? You said we have 8 left?
Yes, we have 8 left and we purchased 40.
40, so it's not an issue that people aren't buying them because they're the larger unit?
Correct. If council chooses to move forward with another intake, we could potentially look at only buying the FC30s or the smaller units, and while we still have some remaining, or buying a different ratio of them.
And I should have asked Farah, but do you feel that, do you get the sense that the new model is bigger or?
I have not looked at the new model. That was the first I heard.
I know, I should have. And my other thought was, could we exchange the 8 that we purchased for this newer one, if it's just a question for that company, I guess?
You can certainly ask.
Anyone else before I move on? Great. Thank you, Ms. Mallory. Good program. All right, 12.2 is a PowerPoint presentation from Mr. Matthew Armstrong on the 2022 financial statements. Made a recommendation that reads that council accept the financial statements for the corporation of the town of Prescott, the year ending December 31, 2022. Can I have a mover and seconder just for discussion? Councilor Burton, Councilor Young, Mr. Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we also have with us this evening Loy Huber from KPMG, and she's the partner for KPMG on our account. I'm just going to go through the financial statements quickly, and then I'll pass it over to Lori to give the audit staff findings report. So. All right, so just a note on timing. So we wouldn't normally be this late in the year discussing the previous year statements. We had to put it on hold because of the amount of work and resources that were involved in getting the new ACCC up and running. And so we made a conscious decision to push it off to the fall, and KPMG was great in being able to accommodate us with that. Our statements for 2023 will be completed before summer of 2024. So cash and short-term deposits decreased fairly substantially. We did spend 12.1 million on capital, and 1.1 of that was on Dibble Street East reconstruction and 10.3 on the new arena. So when we take a look at taxes receivable, fairly stable, an increase of about 54,000 from 21 to 22, and really that was the result of just 2 accounts that were paid off by March 31st. So fairly stable. User charges receivable, and so the vast majority of that is RSL, water and sewer. They were going through a transition between banks as well as capital funding arrangements, and so what we would normally see as 2 months outstanding ended up growing to 5 months outstanding. So that increased it by about 830,000, which is one of the reasons why we had a decrease on our draw on cash. Accounts receivable increased by 7.5 million. 6.4 of that was from the province for the arena up to the work that had been completed at December 31st, as well as our third quarter HST rebate was flagged by CRA simply because we were paying very large invoices as part of the construction of the new arena, and it was significantly larger than our previous ones, and so they flagged it and said, we just want to take a look at that. We sent all the information, there was no adjustments, and they paid that in early January. Accounts payable, it increased by 1.3 million. Of that, holdbacks increased by 1.1 million, and then was a small increase in regular vendor payables. Deferred revenue standpoint, it decreased by 600,000. We brought the fundraising revenue that had been earned up to the end of December of 2022 into revenue to identify and match it to the expenses for the new arena. And then long-term liabilities decreased by the principal amount of about 750,000. We did have temporary borrowing of 8.8 million. That was in relation to the large outstanding receivable that was outstanding from the Ontario government, as well as just timing of the overall cash flows and whatnot for the arena. Tangible assets increased by $10 million. There was 12.1 million in additions, less 1.9 million in amortization, and then 88,000 of unamortized capital cost for Dibble Street reconstruction. So some of those assets have a life of 80 years. So if it's not fully amortized, then we take a small charge on the unamortized amount when we replace it. Total revenue was higher than budgeted by 282,000. A large portion of that had to do with the river route funding and CCRF projects. Interest income was lower, and that's the fact that we had a large draw on cash throughout the year. User fees were a little bit lower, and that was the fact that we delayed the vacant building registry. We gave a grace period before people were actually having to pay into that particular initiative. Penalties and interest were 17,000 lower than budget. Again, we're seeing a stabilization of our overall amount outstanding, so it's not climbing back up. Provincial offenses, which is administered by the joint services of the counties, that didn't rise to the budgeted amount, and it was $21,000 lower. That continues to be an issue in 2023 and potentially in 2024. And then other revenue was $304,000 higher. Augusta Landings, the connection fee was a large portion of that, along with a number of other little smaller amounts. In terms of expenses, they were 719,000 higher. A good portion of that was due to the river route matching the revenue and expense. Community improvement plan goes through grants, but it's funded by reserves. Goes through expenses, but it's funded by reserves. Same with the official plan review. Joint services was $48,000 over budget for the end of the year. Museum furnishings was funded by reserve when we were finishing up the last few things, opening the museum in 2022. Park improvements, again, funded by reserves. And then large number, 231,000 were various modernization initiatives that were completed in the course of 2022. So overall, that ended up with 719,000. The vast majority of that is offset by revenue or reserves that were planned to be used last year. So in terms of net debt, it increased by 2.6 million. That's a direct result of the increase in spending on capital. And the cash flow statement, as I mentioned, there was a number of things that certainly drew on cash, being additional amount that was receivable from RSL, as well as the large capital outlay that we made. So just in terms of the notes to the financial statements, so you can see over the next couple of years in 2023, 2 loans that are currently outstanding will come due, and those were the 2 fire truck loans. In 2024, one of the St. Lawrence Lodge loans will come due by the end of the year, and in 2025, the other St. Lawrence Lodge will be finished by the end of the year. So just wanted to highlight that there are a number that are coming off as we kind of move forward. And finally, investments, we record those at book value plus any reinvestment amount. So that was 1.18 million, and the actual market value was 1.4. And the accounting for that, standard for that changes in 2023, where we'll market to market. And so it will plus whatever is earned this year. Municipal equity, $62 million is invested into capital assets, 6.6 in unvended capital, and the vast majority of that being the new arena, and then $7 million in reserves that we have. So I'll hand it over to KPMG and being able to do the audit report. And then if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer after that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here before you to share the highlights of our audit for fiscal 2023. We have provided you with a fulsome report with respect to the audit, but certainly what I'll do here this evening is walk you through the highlights, and to the extent there are any questions at the end of the presentation, I would be happy to take those. So starting on page number 4, we will see each of the items included in the report in terms of our audit highlights. First, you will see on page number 5 of our report, page 71 of the package, you will see status of the audit. So recognizing that council is slated to accept and approve the financial statements today, subject to the conversations with yourselves prior to that approval, we are certainly in a position to be able to release our audit report in final, of course, a draft of which has been included in this report. Based on each of the items that you'll see in our detailed report with respect to our findings, there is certainly nothing significant to bring to your attention relative to the audit. And our draft audit report is a clean opinion where we state, in our opinion, we believe the financial statements do present fairly in all material respects the financial activities of the town for the year ended December 31, 2022. Included in the package, I have given you some highlights, but certainly Mr. Armstrong's notes were more detailed than mine. So we can move our way through the report. I've also given you a little bit of trend analysis that some of you would have maybe recalled from previous years. It's always interesting, certainly, to put numbers in terms of visualizations and some pictures to certainly highlight the trends year over year. So one of the things that I know is always of interest of council is to take a look at your reserve and reserve funds, page 69 of your package, page 8 of our report. You can see where your reserves have been over the course of the last 5 years, and certainly articulated in detail in the notes to the financial statements, but certainly a very consistent theme over the course of the last 5 years. The next slide, again, slices your reserve and reserve funds a little bit differently. One of the KPIs that the province uses as a measure of financial success is your reserve and reserve funds as a percentage of operating expenses. Some might argue it is a little bit antiquated, but in their mind, anything greater than 20% is certainly a green or a good thing. So you can see over the course of the last 5 years as well, the town has certainly been well north of that benchmark, certainly just shy of 90% over the course of the last 5 years. One of the other KPIs that we certainly take a look at as part of our audit, as we are looking at your tax arrears, otherwise known as your taxes receivable, that sit as an asset on your balance sheet at the end of the year, taking a look at that KPI relative to the percentage of the current levy. And I would say here, again, over the course of the last 5 years, you can certainly see a significant change in the pattern, certainly compared to 2018, where the KPI from the province, actually that shouldn't be 20%, that actually should say 10%, so I can fix that to be final. However, anything anything less than 10% from the province's point of view is a green or a good thing. So you can see you certainly were well north of that in 2018 and have been picking away at that over the course of time, despite the impacts of COVID, where we did see those amounts climb, generally speaking, but not so much the case here. And you can see at the end of 2022, you're sitting right at that 10% mark. In terms of the subsequent pages, in terms of the numbers, we can carry on through and we'll stop briefly on page number 13 of our report, which is uncorrected audit misstatements. So as you know, as part of any financial statement audit, we audit to a level of materiality. Materiality is set annually as part of our audit plan, and that was set for 2022 at an overall financial reporting level of $300,000. So to the extent we identify any differences in the accounts as we're auditing each of the financial statement line items in detail, to the extent we identify any differences in the accounts in excess of 5% of that amount or $15,000, that was certainly our threshold in 2022 to have conversations with the team. You can see on the next page the items that we did flag through the course of our audit, two relatively insignificant items. And interestingly enough, these are specifically only balance sheet reclassification items, which means each of these items that we had identified through the course of our audit actually did not have any impact on the reported annual surplus or deficit. Because they're greater than that threshold, we've highlighted them here, but certainly nothing of any significance to share with you. I would say year over year, continuing to see meticulous, high quality records from the team. So sincere thanks for all of their hard work to achieving that great result. Final piece here on the next page, you'll see control observations at the top. As part of our financial statement audit, there is a requirement to share with you, being those charged with governance, any deficiencies that we identify through the course of our work. So each and every year, as part of our audit work, outside of the numbers, we are actually required to gain an understanding of all of the significant systems, processes, and controls that culminate into the financial reporting process. So we did that again for fiscal 2022 and certainly have not identified, in our judgment, any significant deficiencies in internal controls to bring to your attention, which again is another good news story. In terms of what is new and different, if we jump to slide 17 of our report, which should say at the top, response to newly effective auditing standard, there was a new audit standard that did come into play in fiscal 2022, giving you a lot of detail here in terms of what it means. But essentially, at a high level, a KPMG audit over the course of the last several years has always been very much risk-based, which means we stand back, look at the financial statement as a whole, try to identify where we believe there's a greater risk of material misstatement occurring, and certainly adopting an audit approach relative to those risks assessed. So what was new and different this year was a requirement from Canadian auditing standards to be a little bit more granular in our approach. And certainly you can see at the bottom of the page, certainly more inquiries and more discussion and more risk assessment, certainly around the impacts of IT relative to financial reporting, including any matters related to cyber and so forth. You can see at the bottom of the page, certainly no significant items to bring to your attention with regards to that new standard. On the accounting side of the house, as Mr. Armstrong has mentioned, for fiscal 2022, under public sector accounting standards upon which the town does report, there were actually no new changes that were required to be adopted. However, if you take a look at the report, Matthew has certainly alluded to one of them that is coming in fiscal 2023 related to financial instruments. And I'd say the other big one that is certainly on the horizon for all of the municipals is to incorporate what is being called asset retirement obligations. It's a fairly significant new standard whereby the current financial reporting framework does not actually require any liabilities to go on to the balance sheet related to any items that may occur in the future related to any sort of remediation activities. So a great example of that would be asbestos. Moving forward in 2023, that will certainly be a large undertaking on the part of management to make sure that they are able to fulfill the requirements related to that new standard, and certainly we'll be with them to make sure that it is adopted accordingly. Those are really the highlights of all of the individual pieces as part of our report. I'm open to questions if you've thought of any along the way, and maybe perhaps something that you might have thought of otherwise. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn things back to you.
Thank you very much. That was quite the report. Very positive, though. From the first one I saw about 5 years ago, like that's a huge decrease in our tax receivables. I remember seeing that number being over $1 million, and I was like, that's $1 million that people owe us. You know, let's get that. So to see it be half that now, it's great. And also to know that, 3 of our loans will be paid off in the next 3 years. That helps our debt ratio. That one thing I didn't see on this report, Lori, was our debt ratio. Usually you have a little graph on that.
I think, Mr. Mayor, you might be referring to some comparator analysis that we provided in the past.
Okay.
Mr. Armstrong and I actually discussed that last week. It's old data at this stage, so we made the decision to defer that until we have more current data. But that would be where that would be coming from, and we could work together to pull something together relative to your peers.
Well, we'll get another report in the summer, right? So.
You will. It'll be much earlier than now.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just check if there's any questions. Anyone has questions? No? You're good. Thank you very much. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you. Good seeing everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Armstrong? No? All right, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, item 12.3 is staff report 87-2023 electric vehicle charger update. I have a recommendation that reads that council approve the implementation of charging $1 per hour at all town-owned electric vehicle chargers. Can I have a mover and seconder before discussion? Councillor Burton, Councillor Kirkby. And Nathan?
Yep.
You're going to speak to the report?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Through Mayor Shankar. So this report follows up on a project that was started and approved by council in 2020. And that was to implement electric vehicle chargers throughout the town. And that was, part of that was incentives through the federal government on a program that they had running at the time, along with, and that was covered 50% of the capital costs, and then 50% was from the modernization funding. So the public chargers, so again, it's still a limited item with electric vehicles as far as like finding places to charge the vehicles if they are going to different places. So it does continue to be a barrier, and there are several levels of government that are, pushing to get more and more of these in place. So currently, as the electric vehicle sector does continue to grow slowly. So currently, the Prescott has 7 level 2 chargers that have been in place for about 2 years. So January 2022 is when we had them started up, and then there's 4 more at the Atlantis Chartrand Community Center that will be operational hopefully in December. The majority of level 2 EV chargers usually cost between $1 to $2 per hour to use. And as an incentive in Prescott, there was no cost for the chargers for a period of 24 months. So that kind of brings us up to now. So we're recommending that as we go forward that we implemented a cost of $1 per hour to use the chargers. So there's a little summary of the locations where we have installed them, and that's at the Shoppers Drug Mart parking lot, the Marina parking lot. There's a couple here at the municipal building, the Leo Boyman Community Center. There's 1, and then the Atlantis Chartrand Community Center. There's going to be 4 there, so it's a total of 11 chargers. So just a little details on how they're used. The technical details it's a alternating current supply is 240 volts. Each charger uses about 32 amps, which is 7 kilowatts. And most vehicles right now, it takes about 4 hours. It would take you 4 hours to charge your car if you were to plug into one of these. You can see on PlugShare, that's an app or a website where most people go to look for chargers, and we've got the chargers on there and a couple other different networks. Usually you just charge the phone with your app, or start the EV charger with your smartphone, and you can also get a fob from Flow as well, which is the company that we purchased them through. So below that, I've got a little snapshot of the chargers that are in town, and that hasn't changed since we added these 4 locations in. So we have the 4 locations where we have a total of 7, and then there's the fast charger up by the highway. So again, it kind of indicates that it is a continued slow growth on implementing these into towns. And and Prescott probably is ahead of the curve. If you look at other towns similar to this size, they're not really going to have, they probably wouldn't have 7. They certainly wouldn't have 11 level 2 chargers. And so below, so the nice thing is we can collect a lot of the data from the chargers. So below we've got a chart that shows over the last couple of years the usage. And some of the things to note is that the usage, has gone up a decent amount over the 2 years. Over I guess the year 22 and then the year 23. And you can see a peak in the summertime, which is an indication that people are stopping in here because they're looking to just kind of get off the highway, charge the car for a few hours, and maybe they're looking to go to a restaurant or walk around town. And then I've kind of summarized the total charging sessions and the kilowatt power delivered since January 2022. So a total of 20,000 kilowatt hours and a total of almost 5,000 hours of connection time. And then there's a little bit of a display on what we can and how the information comes out of the back end of the data that we can get. So on the operational side, really there's the cost is the electricity cost, maintenance costs, and cellular connections. And the cellular connections is what allows people to kind of activate these with their cell phone, or we can also get the data, and they can also troubleshoot very easily with the cellular data and connection. So to date in 2023, there's been about 1,250 sessions and almost 3,500 hours, which is almost 20,000 kilowatt hours. So if we were charging $1 per hour, it would be almost $3,500. And making the assumption that the power is 15 cents a kilowatt hour, it would cost us just over $2,000. And then the cellular fee is $150 per year per station. So if you look throughout Ontario, particularly Eastern Ontario, the cost for plugging into one of these is usually $1 to $2 per hour. They're pretty basic piece of equipment. There's not a lot of maintenance that's required. I showed a couple of pictures of the ones here at Town Hall, and then a couple of snapshots from the smartphone and how you connect and start a session. It's very easy. So the alternative is that council could choose not to implement the charging fees at this time, or increase them or decrease them. And so as far as the environmental implications, if somebody chooses to go with an EV, they can reduce their gas emissions, greenhouse gas emissions by 70 to 95%, switching from a similar size vehicle to an electric vehicle. And financial revenue, if we get the other chargers going, save around $5,000, and the electrical would be about $3,350, and then the cellular fee would be $1,650, making it kind of a net zero or a net zero net financial situation for the town. That's it. Any questions? I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Nathan. Questions for Nathan? Councillor Kirkby?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shankar. Nathan, what is the maintenance cost, or what is maintenance on these units per year?
Through Mayor Shankar, there hasn't been any to speak of, really. There's been a few where the cellular connection has gotten lost on some that I've had to go look at, and I've gone and opened up the box, and you just reset it's inside the box where the cellular sits is it's just a 120 volt plug-in with a GFI, little push button on it, and that usually gets it going again. So there's not really a whole lot to do with it.
What is the, I guess, the life expectancy of these units? Did I miss that?
I think they're projecting 10 to 15 years.
That time would be a replacement probably of a new unit, right, or something possibly at that time?
Possibly, yeah. I suspect the technologies
will go.
Yeah, and you start to see that in certainly the fast chargers where 50 kilowatts was the fastest one, say 4 or 5 years ago, and now we're seeing them at 320 kilowatts, so it's multiples faster.
I was reading some stuff on these, and it says the fast chargers, the recommendation amongst most electric car manufacturers is to only use them twice a week, and then to use the level 2 or 1 for ensuring that you don't shorten the life of your battery by doing the fast charge. Myself, I think $1 is a really good deal, and I would have no problem being at 2.
Yeah,
just to be honest. I know what I pay to fill my vehicle.
True enough. It's not $1.
It's not $1.
We'll come back to that then. Sorry. one more.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I just wanted to add to that too. If we have a range between $1 and $2, why wouldn't we go with 2 now? Because sooner or later, we're gonna have some maintenance, and if we do have a surplus, then we can have it in a reserve, and we don't have to come back and say, can we go up 50 cents, or like, let's make it right the first time. That's, I think.
Councillor Young?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Shankar. I was just in agreement as well that,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Sorry,
that we
hand up.
should have some money in reserve in case for new technology.
Councillor McConnell?
Perhaps our Director of Economic Development can answer this question. The redeveloped gas station at the north end, do they have electrical chargers?
Yes.
Do we know what they're going to be charging? Or are they the same type that we have?
No, they would be a higher speed,
Okay.
yeah, than what we're able to offer here
I
at a
don't,
higher rate.
yeah, obviously.
I can't remember if they're level 2, I think they're level 2s. I don't believe they're level 3s, are they?
Yeah, they.
Are they
yeah,
level 3?
The intent was to be level 3s and they're at least 150 kilowatt, I think.
I think they're up to 200.
Potentially, yeah, up to 250, so they're
Oh,
gonna be.
Sean, you're there, you would know exactly what the.
Yeah, they're gonna be,
Hello.
they're gonna be some of the higher power ones you'll see in the region, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Kirkby.
Through you, Mayor Shankar, to Nathan. So we got these chargers on 50% government grants, right? Like, we didn't have to pay for them. But do you think in 10 years that they'd start charging for them, or will there always be these government grants?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Schenker. So, I mean, I'm kind of just forecasting, but I think that you'll continue to see subsidized options for the capital side of it. Mainly because they're not really they're not a they're not a profit generating piece of equipment. Anybody who's putting in the gas stations are kind of forecasting ahead and saying, well, if our gas revenues are going to decrease, we should be looking at the curve on the other side. So, and then they're going to continue the revenues in their stores. So I think that probably for the next, I would say 5 to 10 years, you'll still continue to see subsidies. I think it'll flatten out after that.
And do you know about neighboring townships? If all of a sudden Prescott's charging $2 and others are not, do you think people will drive by or exit?
It's a good question through Mayor Schenker. I mean, it's a really a nominal amount, right? If somebody's going to stop, and I think if they're going to stop in town, they're going to stop because they want to stop here. And if it's going to cost, $6 instead of $3, I don't think that'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that'll change their.
I also agree with the $2.
Anyone else? You said you're good?
Well, I'll take it through you, Mayor Schenker. Since we have Sean in the room, if I can, typical charge on a level 3 for a full charge is $20 to $35. Is that correct?
Again, it depends on the charging system that you stop at. For whatever reason, Petro-Canada is quite a bit more expensive than some of the others. At the Ultramar, you'll pay $17 an hour, but you're done usually in about 20 minutes. You don't have time to visit everything that you do. I suspect down here, a lot of the people are plugging in because it is available. I don't know if they'll plug in necessarily once you start charging, but they probably will. The big thing that it will do is it'll force people like me that use it on a regular basis to pay attention to how long it's been plugged in, because sometimes we leave it plugged in longer than we need to because there's no charge.
Right.
Once there's a charge, you'll try to remember to get out and unhook the thing and move over.
And through, just to extend on that, that was kind of one of my questions. So will it potentially free up the units for more people to use versus you having it hooked up all day?
And the nice thing is they have really long cords on these ones here. These are the great ones. You can almost have 4 cars there to use the 2 systems.
From one, yeah. Okay.
Nathan, I just have a quick question regarding that. So the last 2 years, if it's been costing us about $5,000 a year, has that been paid through the modernization money? Or how have we been paying for that?
I think when we did the council report, we would put the operational funds through the modernization.
That's come to an end then right now.
And then the other thing, I think, because the technology is sort of changing fast, that some places are starting to charge per kilowatt as well. So if your car charges faster, you're gonna get your power a little bit quicker than others who have a car that won't accept the power as fast. So there's technology changing on that side of things too.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Velkamp, so can we amend that recommendation?
Yeah, so through the chair, if someone wanted to put amending motion forward, that the main motion be amended by charging $2 rather than $1, then we'd vote on that motion. And then the main motion would change to reflect that $2 and we'll vote on that one.
Okay. Do I have a mover? Councilor Kirkby, Deepak, and Councilor Burton. All right, all in favor?
Can I have
Oh, sorry.
Can I ask that maybe we have a report back from staff in, say, the end of April? I see it's listed monthly usage here. See what effect this $2 would have on what we're bringing in. Maybe revisit it at that time if we find that it's just, we're getting nothing out of it.
Okay, you mean like the graph there that?
Yeah.
On page 127? Are we able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so all in favor? Carried, thank you. All right.
So now the motion that was on the table that was moved by Councillor Burton and seconded by Councillor Kirkby will read that council approved the implementation of charging $2 per hour at all town-owned electric vehicle chargers. So that still needs to be called.
Okay, so all in favor of that one? Great, thank you. So we're good?
Yeah.
Okay, item 12.4 is staff report 88-2023. Pop-ups cottage purchase recommendation. It reads that council approved the purchase of a cottage-sized pop-up of 10 by 16 feet in the amount of $9,000 to accommodate an experiential and recreation-oriented vendor for the 2024 operating season, specializing in kayak and stand-up paddleboard rentals, group lessons, equipment sales, and bicycle rentals. Can I have a mover and seconder for discussion purposes? Councillor Kirkby and Councillor Young. Ms. Valentine, would you like to speak to this report?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Shankar, through you to council. At this point, I'm sure most council is quite familiar with our pop-ups operation. We had our initial year in 2023 where we launched 6 pop-ups, all size 10 by 10, that were fully occupied for the entire season from May to October. Really successful venture. And one of the vendors that we had always identified as a priority that we were really hoping to attract was something more along the lines of an experiential recreation vendor, renting kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, possibly bicycles. It was something that we also had a lot of our visitors through this year requesting on a really consistent basis. A lot of boaters were visiting and requesting that. A lot of them are here for the season, you know, a bicycle to be able to travel to maybe do some shopping downtown, uptown, take in the fort, some of the other experiences that we have in town would be of great interest to boaters. And, you know, they're small, they can't always come equipped with all of these different recreational equipment. And then we're getting a lot more visitors coming in, especially with the new hotel. So we were actively trying to recruit potential operators, and we were very excited to receive an expression of interest from a vendor. Urban Ocean is the name of the vendor, and she is fully committed to coming for the full season, May to October, which would involve the rental of kayaks and stand-up paddleboards, as well as group lessons, the sale of kayaks and SUPs as well. So what they do is they rotate their stock in and out throughout the year. So as they're taking old stock out of inventory, they will sell that to clients, and then they can also special order brand new equipment for clients that are looking for it. And then they would also like to utilize, to have the availability of the marina there to be able to operate guided tours, classes for people that want to take part in that. And as part of our conversations, we also had some discussions about the bicycles and the interest that we've had in those. And they actually use bicycles in their own operation quite a bit and have access to suppliers. So she had let us know a few weeks ago that they are fully prepared to take on both. They're going to purchase 50 bicycles for rental and have the full selection of kayaks and stand-up paddleboards for rental and sale. They do require a larger pop-up though. The 10 by 10 pop-up just simply will not accommodate an operator with that level of equipment coming in and out. So we are requesting approval from council today to purchase a new pop-up size 10 by 16, which would accommodate the new vendor. The fee for the new pop-up would be $9,000, but of course that fee would be pretty much recouped by the end of the summer in the revenues that we're taking in on the pop-ups. So just to remind council, those first 6 pop-ups were funded through it's the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. We received some funding support to offset the town's expense for those. Still contributed, there was still a town expense for that, but were able to offset a lot of the costs. So that's really enabled us to essentially pay for those pop-ups and more over the period of 2023. So now we're basically in a good position and I'm assuming in a revenue position where we can now start bringing revenue in through the new one as well as the existing 6. So it's been, I think, a good operation, profitable for at least covering the town's expenses, which is ultimately what we're hoping to do here, and then create a great business opportunity. And the hope is that this vendor, like all of our other pop-up vendors, would eventually transition into a permanent brick and mortar location somewhere in the downtown or uptown. Ideally downtown, close to the water for them, I think is their preferred location, but there's certainly lots of opportunities for other business expansions throughout the community. So that would, as you'll see here, just for the financial implications, getting to that, we're anticipating revenues of just over $12,000 for the 2024 operating season if all of the pop-ups are rented on a seasonal basis. And we have received some interest from other vendors looking for larger units as well. So, there is consideration. We may come back to council for a request for additional unit as part of the budget discussions. But at this point, we've got a vendor who's prepared to commit, and we would love to be able to confirm that we have that shed available for her so then she can move forward with her own planning and be fully operational for May 1st. I think that's it. Happy to entertain any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Valentine. One sec, sir. Deputy Mayor Lockett.
Want me to go first?
Sure.
So assuming we bought this for $9,000, I'm assuming it's going to come pretty bare. What's going to be the additional cost to, like the other ones, I'm sure there was a cost in getting them the colors and everything that we have.
That's included with that price. That includes the custom paint as well.
9,000?
Yes, yeah, and all of the different accoutrements to make them look very similar to that Cape Cod style shed. So would I have those nice windows with the shutters and shingled roofs, metal roofs. We will be upgrading to metal roofs because the shingled roofs are a lot hotter. We've realized because we were in the shingled roof shed with our, and it was amazing, the temperature difference.
Really?
So, but yeah, it would be fully set up.
Okay, and I've got the second part of the question. Okay. Would we be purchasing this shed locally?
So it would be from the same provider, which is Better Way Sheds. They are the same supplier that we purchased the existing sheds from. So they're based out of Foxborough, and we have obtained quotes from all providers, and they are the most competitive. And they're offering us a discount because we purchased 7 sheds now from this company. So there is a premium discount included in that.
Did get prices locally, so that's fine.
We did, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Just a point of order. Can we take a question from the audience?
To the chair.
Okay, go ahead, Gord.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. If I were to go and rent a kayak there, where would I launch it?
So as part of that, we're actually looking at, we have a launch at the marina. There is a public launch for kayaks and canoes. It's on the west end of the marina. I can't remember what the dock name is,
Thank you. I was
but
not
there is
aware.
one there, yeah. So we would be
I'm not there.
using that. Mhm.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Kirkby.
Okay, so, through you, Mayor Shankar. So this rental of the bigger one would cost them.
So we would be suggesting $500 a month for the rental. The rental for the existing 10 by 10s is $300 monthly.
Okay.
We felt with the additional space, that a $500 a month rental fee would be appropriate.
And just asking questions, but to me, it kind of sounds single sourcing, like how did you go out to try and find people who would be interested?
So with this, it's something that we promote publicly. We market this program far and wide and we entertain expressions of interest from any vendors that come in. So that she heard about it, I believe through social media was where she first heard about it, reached out, just like all of our other past vendors have, to express interest. And this was not, we are putting a dedicated call out for vendors. So that happens every year. So there's always that open, transparent process. But this would be a bit of a special circumstance because it is a very specific operation. Certainly not something that we would ever want to duplicate. We would only want one operator offering that service. And it's something that requires quite a bit of setup and insurance and liability on the part of the vendor. So it would be a bit more of a one-off in this situation.
I have more. Currently, do the people keep their items in their pop-ups?
So we are renting to two. We're providing winter storage for two of those vendors that have expressed interest in returning as seasonal vendors next year. And we did feel as part of that program that we would provide those vendors with a first right of refusal, as long as they were in good standing, of course, and we had no concerns with their prior year rental.
So in the summer, do people keep their, is it locked up? Do they bring their stuff in every?
No, so they come in, they bring them in for the season, our seasonal vendors. And then we do have two pop-ups were reserved for short term. So we would have new vendors come in every weekend, and those vendors would vacate on the Sunday that their rental period finishes, and then it's open for the next short-term vendor to come in the next weekend.
Okay, so I'm just worried about maybe hearing the thought of windows and, expensive bicycles, and if they're gonna keep all their stuff in there.
They do plan to, and all of the vendors keep, all the full-time vendors kept their product in there year round. Knock on wood, we didn't have any incidents. We do have security on site, and a lot of the vendors do invest in their own security as well. There were several vendors that had their own cameras installed, just to, God forbid, if anything was ever broken into, they had some sort of protection above and beyond what we were already providing.
And my last comment is more about what Gord was asking, but we're gonna have to be ready for this. If they're renting bicycles and there's a path along the river, there's gonna be a lot of people riding their bike down the Riverwalk path. And whether we deal with one side is for bikes, one side is for people, because a lot of people walk their dogs there and everything. They also wanna be biking through the marina, which we're saying is not allowed. So I'm just saying up front to be aware that we're gonna have to have some kind of extra infrastructure thoughts about how this is gonna work.
Yeah, and I think there's certainly signage posted currently that advises people that they should disembark from their bicycles when they're traveling through that marina space. And when it comes to multi-use paths, I personally have never seen one that's designated or divided. Generally, people just, it's about being respectful of other people using the trail, and you accommodate other people as required. It is also a very wide path. I'm not sure what the exact width of that trail is, but it is quite wide. I think it can easily accommodate cyclists, walkers, going both directions.
Okay, and way back, years back, we had a committee called Bike South Grenville, and we created maps as to what were good roads to
Cycling
bike
trails,
on,
yeah,
yeah. So if that can somehow be thought about as well to resurrect that.
That's an idea. Thank you for that suggestion that we've been talking about internally for years. We would love to see a partnership established with the county because I think that really is a county-wide program that needs to happen. I've seen it done successfully in LNA County is a really good example that has established a county-wide cycling and motorcycling trail system that I would love to be able to duplicate here in partnership with county and other townships.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Kirkby.
Through you, Mayor Shankar. Dana, the $9,000, does that include delivery?
That does, yes.
Perfect. I just wanted to comment on the sheds themselves as a composite makeup, which is much different than what's offered locally, just for people's knowledge there. These are pretty unique and well-constructed shed. The one thing I wonder about though, Dana, is it the right application if we're gonna put it at the pop-ups? Is it the right location versus maybe over by where the old Forder's Museum was at that
The base of
bottom?
Center Street, yeah.
You know, where you have that natural rollout. And maybe that space is not available. I have no qualms with purchasing a bigger pop-up because I believe the pop-up area will grow. I just wonder about the location for the kayaks. It is swift water out front there of that, of the pop-up location. The water moves pretty fast. I know you want to launch in the marina. The current launch is at the west end of the marina, which is a pretty far walk. I'm sure they're using some kind of tow wagon to take the kayaks there, but if not, then I would assume that some of the kayaks will be in the water or down by the slip location that we're going to use, which then may impact the space that's available now for people to launch from. So I think it's a great idea and great to see the bikes. I myself would like to see an electric scooter because I think that would be great to ride around and buzz around town on, but I think it's a great idea. I just wonder about the location for that particular business.
And I think you make a very good point, Councillor Kirkby, and we've had just that discussion with the operator themselves.
Yep.
They've actually expressed interest that the boat launch be relocated to the east end of the marina. It would be in a much safer area for kayaks, canoers going out because they would never actually have to cross the channel. They could stay along the shore and follow the break wall all the way out. And we had the same, we speculated whether our waters were that great for, you see people out there on paddle boards and kayaks and I always wondered, and we were extremely happy to have her in the room and question her and be like, are our waters viable for this type of operation? And she really educated us a lot on that. And a lot of people, I think, are making some dangerous assumptions by being on that wide open river channel that it's not actually the safest place to, when it really is. And it actually is prime waters for canoeing, kayaking, paddleboarding. And I think, she would be more than happy to. And that's part of her role too. She was very excited about that education aspect and being able to introduce people to the great waters that we do have here for this exact pastime.
And so the people will rent the kayak and come out. That's my other concern, right, is the boat traffic coming in, the bigger boat and the smaller kayaks coming in, which is already there, but we're going to multiply it, right? That's my only thought, is where we have kind of like where the divers railing is, or even at the front where you have the walk downstairs. But I mean, I'm all for it. I'm sure there'll be things that'll work out. I just wanted to throw my comments in on that.
Yeah, I think they're all very certainly valid and some things that we're definitely considering as part of this.
Perfect.
It's not a question, it's just a comment. I do a ton of kayaking on the river and it all depends on the wind, the direction.
Yeah.
What is safe.
That was one of her biggest comments as well. Yeah, it's all on the wind.
Thank you, Dana. I mean, I think that's a great addition to the pop-ups, and my only concern is that gonna be big enough for them? If they got 50 bikes and kayaks and paddle boards, so,
So she's confident it would be, and they wouldn't have all 50 there at any given time. It would be more, based on the demand. And they would have maybe the odd special event where they would bring in a greater quantity, especially to tie in, coincide with a lot of the events that we're having and seeing that come down there as well to the site.
Oh, that's great. What color?
We have her branding. It is going to be like a teal blue, very similar to her logo and branding.
Very good.
Actually, kind of close to the color of one of the beads on your bracelet there.
Any further questions? Councillor McConnell?
First of all, excuse me, I'm very much in favor of this. I thought it was something we should have for some time. So I'm glad to see that there's a possibility of it. I was going to mention the fact that that kayak launching station in all probability could be moved to the other end of the marina, which would make it adjacent to where the thing is going to go. So that I don't think is a problem. And like Mary, I kayak, and the wind is a big deal. And I know she's out on a lot of days that it wouldn't occur to me to go out at all. But there really isn't a problem on a decent day paddling around Prescott or in and out of the marina, which I've done many times. My only concern here is the hours that this thing is going to be open. You say she's committed from the middle of May till the middle of October. But what are the hours that she's going to be open in that time? Because in all honesty, the complaints that I've heard about the pop-ups is that they're never open. And that's not really true. It's just that they're not open when you have to walk by. And if you happen to be going by at the same time every day, they never look like they're open. But they might be open Thursday, they're not open Tuesday, whatever. So do you have any information on that?
We do, thank you. We're actually setting increased hour requirements, operational requirements for this year, which would be during that prime tourism season, the July, August. We would have minimum requirements of the Wednesday to Sunday, and then being open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. versus the 5 p.m. we were looking at for some of those weekdays this year. We would have shorter seasons on the May, June, September, October periods. And that is very much going to be a requirement because having consistent hours, having all of the vendors open at the same time is critical to the success of that operation. And that was one of the areas that we struggled with a little bit last year. And it was very much a learning curve too. And it was a new operation. And you know, we were not, I won't lie, we were not overrun with demand. That first year, we had to get pretty creative here and there to keep those sheds filled and occupied and have a good mix of seasonal vendors in there. And now they're becoming more and more popular, more demand. So as that's happening, I think we can start to insist on some of those key operating requirements that we were maybe a little bit more flexible on in the past, because it was important to have them occupied. So certainly a critical area, but it will also be vendor dependent to a certain extent because a kayak canoe operator is not necessarily going to be renting and bicycles, renting those during October. So they may have a bit of a shorter season. They may not be renting those, you know, their rentals may stop at a certain time of night because they certainly don't want people out on the water or cycling in the dark. And having to return equipment in the dark. So there still needs to be a bit of flexibility depending on the type of operator. But we certainly want those operational from Wednesday to Sunday during that peak summer season. Hope that answers some of it.
It does, yeah, because as I said, I'm fully in favor of this, but not on a hit and miss open schedule. I don't think the investment in the building is worth it unless we have somebody committed to be there, to be open. Now, if it's a pouring rain on a Thursday afternoon, the odds are they're not gonna have any business if they wanna shut up and go home. I don't have a but we should be having decent hours. Thank you.
Any further questions? I'm gonna call a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you. Okay, 12.5 is staff report 89-2023, the 2024 key infrastructure projects approval. I have a recommendation that reads that council directs staff to proceed with the following projects. Number 1, replacement of E-Dock, and number 2, proceed with detailed design and tender for the water treatment plant filter upgrade. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Kirkby, Councillor Campbell, and I've got Matthew or Nathan.
So we did discuss this at our previous meeting, just a couple of weeks ago. And so more than happy to answer any questions there might be. The reason why we're bringing it now is just from a timing perspective, getting the tender out for EDOC and then back for council approval. And then it provides a fairly short window by the time we need it by Victoria Day. And then the other one being the water treatment plant filter upgrade. We do have to go through an approval process with the ministry, which can take several months in itself. And there's a very short kind of 8 weeks in which we can actually do the work between spawning seasons and whatnot. So that's the reason for bringing them a little bit sooner. And the other one that we will bring back at a later point as part of the overall budget is just the planning work for East Street, but we don't need that. There's nothing magic to the timing of that. So we just thought we'd bring these forward, get council's review and understanding of how they like to treat them, and then we can go from there.
Great, thank you. Councilor McConnell, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. First of all, I appreciate this stuff coming to us early rather than late. It's always nice to be able to look at these things ahead and see what our plans are. My only concern is an email that was received last week about a very unexpected expense that we are looking at. And I think we need to keep that in mind when we are looking at committing substantial monies to other projects. I think that other thing needs to get locked down first before we make commitments to other things in town. And I really don't think I should see any more than that.
Okay.
So if I can speak to that one, these two items, in particular the water treatment plant, would be paid by the water plant reserve, and that can only be used for water, wastewater type projects. The other one is being funded by the marina and the infrastructure reserve, both of which are generating yearly contributions that are in excess of the project amount. So both would not have a negative impact on the current operational requirements for the 2024 budget.
So they're essentially a zero impact on any tax increase that we may have?
That's correct.
Fine, thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions? And I call the question, all in favor? Carry, thank you. Okay, item 12.6 is staff report 90-2023. The ACCC update, summer ice season feedbacks and improvement. This report is from our Director of Operations, Nathan Richard, and Samantha Joan Miller. I'm just going to read the recommendation that council approve ending the 2023-2024 ice rental season at the Elaine Chartrand Community Center on or around May 15th, 2024, to allow for the completion of work to the facility while working collaboratively with the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal to satisfy demand for summer ice in future years. Can I get a mover or seconder for discussion? We're going to go this way. Councillor Kirkby, Councillor Campbell, and Samantha's going to speak to this report.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar, through you to council. 2024 is quickly approaching and we are now receiving inquiries for spring ice. We're accepting bookings as well. That being said, we're proposing that we accept those bookings until around May 15th, depending on the demand for spring ice. After that May 15th date, we would be looking at removing the ice at the end of the 2023-2024 rental season. That will allow our Parks and Rec staff to get back into the parks and would allow us to complete some of the work at the ACCC. the intent would be to make the ice and have the 2024-2025 ice rental season open as of August 15th, on or around August 15th. Doing so in this first season would allow us to have a better understanding of the operating costs in the month of August, but also give us an idea of what June and July would look like, so that when we look forward to the following season, we would be able to have a better understanding of the minimum number of hours we need and the rental cost that would be to be able to make it sustainable to stay open and recover the variable costs of the utilities and the staffing for the summer season. Beyond next summer, we are suggesting working in collaboration with Edwardsburg Cardinal to determine the demand for summer ice and whether or not it's worth staying open, having both the ACCC and the Ingredient Center open, and council would be able to make that decision after understanding the 2024 costs. There is, and you'll see in the report, that we have been collecting feedback regarding the ACCC since we opened in September. The chart's been summarized to let you know what the feedback is, what our possible next steps are, and the type of project or work that would be moving forward. I'm not going to go through everything that's on that chart, but happy to answer any questions if there are any relating to what's in there. In terms of alternatives, council could decide to modify or decline the recommendation at this time, and any financial implications would be determined as part of the 2024 project budget.
Thank you, Samantha. Any questions for Samantha? Councillor Burton?
Thank you. Thank you for this report. Sorry, I have my back to you. I love all the changes. I mean, with anything new, there's always room for improvement, right? We play hockey there every Friday night, and lots of the co-ed hockey people, oh, what about this? What about this? I'm like, okay, yeah. Anything new, there's always room for improvement. So I'd like to, they were talking about additional hooks in the dressing rooms and the privacy wall and stuff like that. So I really appreciate moving forward with the improvements.
Great, thank you. Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, through you, Mayor Shankar. Sam, can you explain the privacy walls in the dressing room? What is the need for them when we have 6 dressing rooms, 1 family room, 1 coach's room? You can explain that to me.
If I could.
Sure.
If you don't mind. When you're changing in a change room and somebody enters the door and everybody's changing, you can see everybody. So it'd be nice to have a wall there of privacy. If somebody does open the door and somebody's changing, they're not.
Full display.
Anyone walking by the hallway. Yeah, just walking by the hallway, you can see right in the change rooms.
It's that way across most rinks in Ontario. Just to be clear, I've been in a lot of them.
Yeah.
Myself. And it feels low on my totem pole here, but anyways, I guess this is stuff that's already, is this decided stuff here?
All the improvements, we just wanted to put what we've been hearing back. Some are relatively easy, some are going to be a little bit more difficult. Some are going to be $5,000 fixes, some are much more than that. But we wanted to kind of just give you a heads up as to things that we would be bringing forward as part of the 2024 project budgets. And I think, we didn't say yes or no to any of them. We just kind of put everything that we've heard and kind of put that on the table. I think definitely the hooks and the shells are 2 big ones that I think we would, be promoting from a staff perspective. And then the other ones kind of.
And the privacy wall is coming more from our adult leagues as opposed to our youth leagues. We do have all age ranges at that arena, all overlapping in timeframes as well. So I think there's an element of
modesty.
And
I have my concern is the space that it'll take up that we're already limited on in the dressing rooms, in my opinion. But that's for later discussion. The one thing that I also wanted to note is where we will work with Cardinal Edwardsburg. on the ice rentals for spring or summer. That would work, in my opinion, if one of them needs to do maintenance. But speaking as a resident of Prescott and a potential user and a town councillor, I would rather see spring tournaments in hockey be played in Prescott, where we have, in my opinion, hopefully nobody from Cardinal Edwardsburg is watching currently, more to offer, locally. So, I mean, as I put my hat on as council, do I want to see tournaments in Cardinal in the spring? No, I would rather see them here in Prescott, supporting the businesses here in Prescott. And I know there's an overflow. I'll be honest, I would like, ideally, if we could work together to see some big tournaments come during that time, because that is a big, we're quite aware, that is a big market, is spring hockey, right? And summer hockey. It would be great that we could all benefit from it, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, I have to put my town council hat on and say, I would love to bring the 300 people here and keep them in Prescott for our own benefit.
Can Sam, go ahead, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you. Councillor Kirkby, in your experience, we're suggesting May 15th as for the 2024 date. Within the spring hockey realm, typically, would that be later for spring tournaments than the May 15th date?
I believe any time that I've ran spring leagues in Cardinal, the last available date was usually the long weekend of May.
Okay.
When it was done. Yeah. Sometimes it would be the last weekend of May was typical.
Okay.
But it all depends. Cardinal Edwardsburg, they run a tight ship on that stuff. It all depended on how much ice was rented. So it could be shown to you that way, but if they didn't get enough participation, then it was definitely wheeled back.
Okay.
Yep.
And as an inclusion to that, just so you know, going into the spring season, we do have the first 2 weekends of April booked already. One is for a hockey tournament and one is for a skate showcase.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, and I think that's great because traditionally, like the Leo would close after the Leo tournament, which was in March. So now we're keeping it open another 6 weeks at least. So that's a big improvement.
Sam, this is really nothing to do about the facility itself, but as we discussed earlier, there was a big tournament there on Friday with the younger kids. And I heard a lot about, what an amazing facility and everything, but it's very dark when you leave the rink till you get to Edward Street. And the local people know how the road goes, but the people from out of town found it really confusing. So lights would be great, but even if the road was lined, I know it's late in the year to do it now, but if we could line the road to let them know where the actual road, each direction is supposed to go, and where they're not supposed to go would probably be really helpful.
Okay.
It's on my wish list.
So it is one of the feedback items was in terms of the street lighting. In terms of painting, we were definitely past that season, unfortunately, because it wouldn't adhere to the road because of how cold we are at this moment. But certainly, I noted it myself. Is that it's weird how it kind of swings around. So we'll work with Prescott and look for next spring to have that installed.
Quickly.
Yep. Quick.
Does Prescott still own that road?
They do.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
That's what I was going
Same
to.
question. Anyone else? Oh, Councilor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I don't spend much time at the rink, but I hear comments from people outside of the rink. And the biggest comment I've had myself from being in there and from hearing people is this black nylon netting. North side of the rink, I I don't have the greatest vision. I've got glasses, but I use them for close-up, not for distance. But standing on the track at the north side and watching a scrimmage, to me, was virtually impossible. I'd wind up with a split headache. I'm seeing the netting, not the ice. And so to me, and from what comments I've heard, that's a very important thing. I suspect it's going to be a very expensive thing. Is there a possibility of reselling this to somebody else, like fending it off on somebody else that doesn't know any better? I know that sounds awful, but you know.
At the wheel.
Go fishing.
Yeah, if I, yeah, now you mentioned through Mayor Shanker, maybe there's potentially outdoor rinks that would use it just as like safety net, so pucks don't go up, but there's no visual coming in. So yeah, I never thought about that, but, and honestly, I don't know how much it costs. I don't know.
I don't know if it's that.
Can you find out?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Nope. All right. Thank you, Samantha. Just for discussion, so that's good. Sorry, there was a recommendation, right? Yeah. My bad. All in favor? It's on the next page. There it is. All in favor?
Close it over the summer. Was that the?
Yeah. Carried. One at a time, man. I got them all. 12.7 is staff report 91-2023, the CAO's report for December 4th, 2023, from Matthew Armstrong, just for information. So go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, so just hitting the highlights, we have gone now through a week of having mornings available for the walking track. I think that's been well received. And we're starting to get a regular group coming in each day. We're going to have music in the background to provide a little bit of step to your walk and that sort of thing. So that's great. Free public skating, the adult is starting to generate some regulars as well. Our parent and taught, we need to do a better job of marketing and getting to some of those. So it might be something that we can talk about at the library on the discussions on Friday mornings or the book readings, and just make sure that they know that that's available twice a week. In terms of the window blinds, they've been installed on the second floor, so that's done, and the dividing wall between the two community rooms was installed as well, so those are all finished. Water tower construction is on budget and continuing to go. They are now done the concrete work on the pedestal, and so to give you an indication, I think that pedestal is approximately 100 feet tall, and then there'll be a kind of a 10-foot collar that will sit above it, and then on top of that another 33 feet of the actual tank. So it's around the 150-foot mark when it's all said and done. In terms of the bridge work, that's continuing. We're past the end flagging, so that's good news, and certainly the weather's kind of held off, but we're certainly into snow at this point. The affordable housing information session last Tuesday was well attended, 50 registrants fitting into the Ruth Evanson room. That is, I think, up on YouTube now, and or will be up on YouTube, able to watch and kind of just going through things that people need to think about when they're looking at additional residential units or tiny homes, that sort of thing. There is also a waiting list. I think there's more than 20 people on the waiting list for the next session. And so looking to do that perhaps in Augusta or Edwardsburg Cardinal for the next time. The holiday mixer, I believe there's about 85 participants in that last Tuesday at the same time. And that's the first time we've had that joint between North Grenville and South Grenville municipalities and Chamber of Commerce. So that's great news. Overnight parking, we have done, I think, one night of enforcement warnings. And so one night netted 69 cars. So it's something that people need to be aware of, especially now that we have snow. At the same time, also people need to remember to pull their nets back from the edge of the road because our plows are very big and they generally operate in low visibility conditions. So it's always a good idea to pull those back. Shakespeare, we were able to find, they were in need of additional space for storage. We were able to find a spot at the Leo Boylan Community Center in an unused change room, and so we're able to offer that. Winter Wonderland has already been covered. Just some future events, the holiday food drive. It's certainly something we would like to challenge Augusta, who was last year's winner, on, and make a little bit of a challenge out of it for them, because we don't want to just give them the again and the bragging rights. The Christmas tree ornament, I believe some of you were able to receive one this evening. So there's several stores throughout town, as well as the Museum and Visitor Center, that are selling those. Quantities are limited, so and we expect them to be a hot seller for this Christmas. Next Wednesday, on the 13th, McEwen and Quickie will have their grand reopening. It's spectacular to see what they've turned that into, and a really nice addition to Edward Street North. And then finally, the 2024 Lighthouse pop-up vendor. So we talked about the shed vendor pop-up a little bit earlier, and then the Lighthouse this year, we did have someone that was all signed on for it. Unfortunately, they had some change of life experiences, and so they had to back out at the last moment. So we have had a fair amount of interest in people wanting to use the Lighthouse, and something that is also part of our tourism attractions of being able to go back up to the top and see that view. So that application will be released shortly, and we look forward to having a competitive process this year. That's all for me. More than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Oh, okay. Thank you, Matthew. Moving along, 12.8 is staff report 92-2023, Prescott Dive Park bench sponsorship and purchase. This report is from our Economic Development Officer, Dana Valentine. The recommendation reads that council approve the purchase of a specialized bench valued at $3,789, funded in partnership with a $2,500 contribution from Save Ontario Shipwrecks Ottawa, to accommodate divers exploring Prescott's Dive Park located at the base of Center Street. I have a mover and seconder so we can discuss this. All right, Councillor Burton and Councillor Kirk. Oh, Councillor Kirk, I said it. Yep. You're in. Ms. Valentine, would you like to speak to it?
Oh, certainly. Thank you, Mayor. Through you to council. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Prescott's Dive Park, which is a great installation at the base of Center Street. It's an underwater dive park that has a number of different sculptures and monuments installed for the use of our diving community. Prescott has a very healthy diving community that, and our waters are fantastic for diving, especially for diver training. So we get a lot of divers coming to the community, and we've been working in collaboration with Save Ontario, Shipwrecks Ottawa, and Rockville chapters for several years on just continuing to develop that dive park and grow that industry in our community. And this year we were approached, as you know, we implemented quite a few improvements this year. We installed a new dive shed, kind of a staging area for the use of divers, public washrooms that are available there through the diving season, and several other amenities to benefit the diving community, and have some plans for some new signage next year. And it also discussed the opportunity of installing some dive benches, similar to the style that members of council have likely seen at Centene Park in Brockville. There's one at the Rossay Dive Park as well. It's a higher backed bench that can accommodate diver tanks and equipment, and is really designed specifically for that use. Not to say that it can't be used by anyone. It is still very much a functional bench. So they actually approached us with an offer to partner on the purchase of a dive bench, and their contribution would be $2,500. They've reached out to a local provider, a welder, who is very open to fabricating the bench, which is the quote that we've included today. We have requested as part of our furnishings moving forward, we do try to stick with plastic lumber. So that is one aspect that we have requested as part of the bench, just to ensure that it has a long lifespan and doesn't rot within the first few years and create an ongoing expense for the town in having to replace it every couple of years. So that's just one point I wanted to make about the bench itself. But this has been a really positive partnership to date. This past summer, the SOS groups partnered with Canada Diving Supply and the Professional Association of Diving Instructors to organize an underwater cleanup event, removing over 1,200 pounds of refuse from our shoreline in the dive park area. So that was a great partnership with this group, and they're really trying to spearhead ongoing improvements and partnerships with the community to really develop that sector here in Prescott. And it's a great tourism sector. The divers, not only do they come and dive, they spend money and time in the community. They dine in the restaurants afterwards. They go shopping. They bring their families back on separate weekend and day trips to experience the community. And we've had a lot of great feedback from the SOS groups this year. So we are recommending the purchase of the dive bench in partnership, and the total cost is $3,789, with the town's portion would equate to just over $1,000 at $1,289, with the remaining coming from the Ottawa SOS group. And I'm happy to answer any questions from council.
Councilor Campbell?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. When I worked in Augusta, I revitalized the Rothsay dive site.
Okay.
And we had a gentleman that did the dive bench there. And I'm pretty sure it didn't cost that much, but I didn't know if you'd be interested if I contacted that person to see how much it would cost.
So I believe my contact, actually, because he referred to that gentleman, is part of our discussions. And to my knowledge, I would have to look back at my email, Councillor Campbell, but I'm not sure. I think he's no longer constructing them, and that's why they went this route. But if you have a contact, I'm more than happy to take it and follow up, yeah. But I do know they looked at that.
And would this cost include installation?
Yeah, no, so that would be on us. That would be another in-kind contribution of the town. But it is simply, it installs just like all of our other benches do. They have a plate on the bottom and just literally screw into the sidewalk or the concrete or asphalt, wherever they're being installed. Very quick install process.
Okay, thank you.
Probably tough to steal that.
Pardon?
It's probably tough to steal that bench.
It's not a question, it's just a comment that I think it's good that we are reinventing diving, because for a while we really were not welcoming them, and I think this is a great start. Now they've got a good setup down there, and I think this would be great. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine. I'm gonna call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Wow, good job, Dan. Okay, this is the rapid action portion of the meeting. There's no resolutions tonight. There's no bylaws. Is there any new business? Oh, Councilor McConnell?
It's not really new business, just a question I forgot to ask when we were going through what we wanted to do at the rink.
Yep.
If I may. The insulation is falling off the wall. I'm presuming that's a supplier's defect, and they're gonna be covering the cost of fixing that.
Yes and no. So it is performing as it should. It was the wrong product that was agreed to. And so we do have a number of fixes that we can do. So there's a fix for the larger change rooms that are on the south side of the change room hallway. The one that are on the north side of the change room hallway, we have a fix that we believe we can do internally at a much lower cost and a much improved look and result.
Pardon me.
The fisherman's friend.
Yeah, held off for 2 hours. Who spec'd the insulation?
That was,
You're telling me it's the wrong product. Somebody had to spec it and somebody will be responsible for it to spec it.
so I think what we realized is regardless of what product is there, it's the wrong thing, period. So there was an original product that was spec'd by the architects. Then the contractor came back with a slightly different product that was supposed to perform the same way. But at the same time, I think having that insulation, regardless of what product it is, having it that close and being able for people to rub their hand against it or look at it the wrong way and it to fall off, then it absolutely was the wrong choice, period. So I think we have a combination of things. One, the products that there is not a good product. And then the combining problem is that it should have never been that kind of product or type of product in the first place. So it's something that we believe we can do at a fairly low cost, and we'll have a discussion with the architects as to the fact that they specified a product that should never have been done in the first place.
Well, it also sounds like you just said the architect spec'd the product and the contractor suggested and supplied a different product that we agreed to.
That's correct.
So somebody somewhere needs to pay for this and it's not us. It's the way I'm looking at it. As far as our internal fix goes, if this is an internal fix, it's gonna be good for 5 years and then we gotta spend a lot of money tearing it off or doing whatever you do to fix it. I don't think we should be very happy about it.
Okay. So what we're looking at is actually removing it all, strapping it with probably 2x2, that sort of thing, and then putting actual solid insulation between that strapping and then covering it with drywall. We see that as being a cost-effective and fix that will be a permanent fix as opposed to something that is just putting a Band-Aid on an already bad situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Eventually, it sounds like. I got
16 as noticed, there are no notices of motion and there are no mayor's proclamations this evening. Any media?
No.
No? No media. So item 19 is closed session. The recommended motion reads that council move into closed session at 8:17 PM to discuss matters pertaining to 19.1 approval of closed session minutes. 19.2 is purchase and sale. Under section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and that the CAO, treasurer, clerk, economic development officer, and deputy clerk remain in the room. Can I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Lockett and Councilor Burton.